I actually have no idea what this looks like, sounds like. I'm so far from the camera because I had to set it up because I'm sitting on a fucking fire escape. You cannot tell me that I don't take you guys places and give you and show you the world and make a good life for you, because I've literally climbed out of like a 5-story fire escape. I didn't even put on socks because I didn't think this through. So we're gonna make this quick. Also, I'm going to assume someone's going to stick their head out of their apartment at some point and just be like, shut the fuck up, because it's New York. And I might get frostbite with my ass on this cold metal emergency only fire escape. So there's every chance in the world that I am arrested, but also there's every chance in the world that I get off, because this is the United States of America. Breathe in. Welcome to What the Fuchs with Jess Fuchs. Now breathe out. And scream. Because here's what's pissed Jess off this week. What do I want to talk about today? Great question. It's going to be quick because I've woken up in a fucking grumpy mood. I moved apartments yesterday. There has not been a fire escape at my old filming location. This is Hollywood, which means anything can happen. I was always scheduled to move apartments, which is great. I've only got a couple weeks left in New York, which is fucking crazy, because the first month of traveling when I was in London, I mean, as I've said it before and I'll say it again, should have been on suicide watch. Those were some miserable weeks. And then I've gotten into the groove, and now I'm in the part of the trip, especially New York portion of it, where I'm like, okay, great, this is fun. I'm doing fun things, seeing all my friends. But I'm like, I think the theme of today's episode is change, and I am older. When I moved to New York, I was 22. I didn't know anything. I didn't know my ass from my tits. You know what I'm saying? Because they were both flat. And then through hormones, eating chicken hormones, the hormones in chickens, and just being a woman and my body going like, oh, I think you need to procreate. My tits have gotten bigger, my hips have gotten wider, and my ass has gotten flatter because I spend a lot of time. The other day I was sitting on something and I just thought, I don't know that I'm sitting on my ass so much as my back, because I have no ass. I complain to anyone who will listen. It just goes neck, ankle, and that's the body I was given by God and my family, my genetics. I mean, there are a couple of things that I did want to say, and that's what we're going to go off. We're going to go off the list. We're not going to free ball it, because sometimes I let myself free associate, and then we end up with a 45-minute episode of absolutely nothing. But I want this to be pointed, organized, and direct, because we're in New York City, and if you can't be those things, where else can you be? This isn't California. We aren't hippies who do sound bath meditations. No, we're people who shove and push, even when we're in a friendly space, like a costume shop. For Halloween, I went to go get costume. And during my time in this costume shop, what should be a joyous occasion? No, people are shoving and pushing and being rude and don't give a fuck. Do you know the number of times people just body checked me and then made it out like, oh, you're in my way? No, sweetie. This world has multiple people in it. Not just one, not just you. I almost feel like everyone in New York City, or even in the world, is like, I am a human. You are Sims. So why can I not just walk through walls, walk through you when you're in my way? I keep looking to side because I am convinced that this will just crumble underneath me, because I know that it is strong, but these buildings have been around for as long as time itself. And I'm like, how do they not? They're rusty. How do they not just give way? But I guess they are supposed to be for emergencies only. No, people smoke out of their windows. I don't think anyone gives a shit in this city. I guess the main thesis I've been thinking about and asking myself for my PhD recently is, has New York City changed, or have I? Because as I think about would I live here again, I think there are so many circumstances under which I would. But, you know, I look around the place I've been staying. I have roommates. I don't know, man. Yes, I've been having roommates the last few years, and those roommates are my parents. But do I want to be a grown woman with roommates? And that applies to like a husband and children. I think that roommates, people think, oh, you're living with your family if you've got a husband and you're married. No, those are roommates. Let me be so clear about that. If you have to pick up after somebody, if you have to clean up, if you have to be like, oh, I need to sit on the toilet for 5 minutes to be alone, you're living with roommates. I don't care if you've got a ring on your finger and you pretended to say I do. That is a goddamn roommate. The definition of a roommate is sharing the space with someone else. And I didn't Google that. I'm just saying that that's what I believe a roommate is. And I think about the big picture, you know, can I talk about roommate? Are we talking about a roommate in the sense of like someone you share a home with? Sure. But am I also metaphorically kind of indirectly talking about roommates in quotes in relation to, do I want to live with a human? That seems terrible. And then you're seeing a lot of people, I mean, on TikTok and stuff, I've seen people talk about they live with their husband or their wife or their partner or whatever, and they each have a separate room. And then I go, okay, no judgment on that. But I don't know if I even want that. That sounds terrible as well. What do you have to tiptoe around? You got to close the door in your room. You got to keep your room clean in case someone comes over. Oh, fuck that. So I have been thinking a lot about, you know, I love and loved the rage and the strength of New York City, how rushed everyone is, how rude everyone was. I kind of found that kind of awesome when I was younger, the anonymity of it. You can just push through. But now I don't know if I'm gotten soft in my old age or if I just am more of a community member, despite the fact that I'm saying I don't want to live with anybody. But I'm like, I don't know. That has been the thing I've been thinking about this week. And also my friends and I were talking about the rudeness of New York recently and how it's like so funny. Like people, like we were crossing a street and this car like drove really fast through, and my friend Delia, very mild-mannered usually, like I've never really seen her get angry ever, and I'm screaming. She literally throws both arms up because we had about 10 seconds left, and she's like, look at the signs. And I said, Delia, oh my God. And we were crying. I said, who the hell are you, miss? I was like, look at you defending your little cubs behind you. And we were talking about the fact that we've all been there when like the car that you start like belligerently screaming at has to fully stop, and then you're just eye to eye with the person. And I was telling them when I first lived here, I lived on the L train, which is like a really busy train bringing people in from Brooklyn, from whatever, across. It goes, is it Brooklyn, Bushwick, whatever, into the city. And so I was on one of the busiest stops, and I had to go like 5 stops. And so people along the way during rush hour would just shove their bodies into an already tight space. So one time, I mean, I'm already up against the wall on this fucking train, and this mother and her son shoved their way on and kept trying to get in, but the doors wouldn't shut. And as they were trying to shove in, I'm like, what are you doing? There's no space. Well, what do you think happened? They got in, the doors shut, and there was space. And then I'm eyeball to eyeball with this mother who I've just screamed at and have to go 4 stops with her right to my face like we're about to kiss. And that's New York City. I can usually tell how normal someone is based on how obsessed they are with my accent. And there's people who get obsessed too soon, who they don't hear or see anything but the Australian accent. And then there are people who leave it too long, where I go like, don't I sound weird to you? Last night I was on stage and I literally stopped and I said to the crowd, don't I seem weird to you? Because even though I'm like listening to American accents all the time, I feel like I'm in the Truman Show. I feel like I'm in a movie. I went to see a show the other day and there was audience crowd participation where the whole audience had to reply with a statement every time there was this crowd work bit done. And 200 Americans were like, thank you so much. And I kept looking around and I was like, this feels so weird. This feels freaky. I feel like I'm in a weird, like, I don't even know what I'm in. So, okay, what was the point? There's so many points and no points at the same time. I guess the thing that really made me think about New York City was when I was going to get my costume the other week, and I couldn't stop thinking. I was like, these people are so fucking rude. Like in Australia, you would say like, oh, I'm so sorry, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Oh, you might even exchange, God forbid, 2 humans exchange a laugh, 2 strangers exchange a smile and a kind of knowing glance. Well, I can't really lift my eyebrows because of the Botox, but they would exchange some sort of knowing glance of like, yeah, it's busy in here, sorry about that. We're all trying to get our stupid costumes last minute, aren't we? But no, there was none of that. I mean, people are body checking bitches, not giving a shit. I'm like, you're literally buying like an Annie costume for your child while body checking me. You're not a good person. You are not a good person. New York's so strange because it's like you're so amongst the people on the train, on the buses, walking around. It is such a come together city, but at the same time, it is such an isolated, like, we are for ourselves city. It's like the same people who are physically fighting through the costume shop are now joining for one of the biggest parades to dance Michael Jackson in the city that goes viral on TikTok. I'm like, how are these the same people? The dissonance does not work for me. And maybe maybe we got to have a bit more nuance with how we see people. Look at me being philosophical on this goddamn frozen escape room. New York feels like one big escape room. I'll say that. I do love a fire escape though. There is something about it that just feels so classic New York, so romantic. And I didn't have a fire escape in college, but I was like lying in bed today thinking about like the last time I had a situation where the apartment that I used to live in was on the second floor, and I was so paranoid someone would climb up and murder me through the fire escape. And sometimes when I let those intrusive thoughts in for too long, when I was trying to fall asleep, I would, instead of sleeping in the nude, which is what I enjoy the most, I would get up and get dressed because I was like, oh, at least if someone murders me in the night, like I'll be dressed, so then when they find my body, they don't have to find the distressing moment of me being stabbed to death, but also they don't have to be like, oh God, we'll throw something over her, even though I know if someone's murdered, surely they're assessing the entire body, nude or otherwise, so that doesn't really matter. If I was actually going to motivate myself to lose weight and change my body, and that's a whole other thing we don't have the capacity for today, I think the biggest motivating factor is not like revenge body for other people, like society. It's like, think about the coroner who has to like look at your body when you are inevitably murdered. That is the biggest motivating factor for me, to trim down, to lose a couple kgs. But okay, when I went in on exchange, I lived in a house that was like 3 floors, whatever. And I had my own room for half of the time, but then the other half of the time I ended up switching rooms because this guy kept climbing up the fucking fire escape, or the like outside. I don't even know how they would climb up, but he would climb up like the fire escape because he was hooking up with the girl who used to live in that room. And I guess he would get so drunk he went into zombie mode and just was like, me need tits pussy, and would just walk to the house and climb up. I mean, literally I was like, this is a reverse Rapunzel where like, I'm like, please leave me the fuck alone. So I ended up changing rooms with one of the girls on the upper deck, because she was the one who used to fuck him. And I guess they stopped fucking, or so. I really don't know the story. All I know is I had to change apartments because I was like, I will not be serviced through a window, sir. Come knock on the door and take me out for a drink, just because that's what one of the other girls does. So I think that there's something beautiful about a modern day fire escape and how you can just climb up it to get a bit of poussoir. But I'm just not in the business of that. Plus, this one's about 5 stories up, so I don't think any man's doing that. And I wouldn't dream of it. I wouldn't ask for that. That is not my display of chivalry. The other thing I forgot about New York is because everything is so small, even if you live a little bit further out of the city, which a lot of my friends do now post-COVID, because they have cats or dogs, or they just wanted more space, or because the rent was lowered, because everyone was like leaving the city. Those aren't the real troopers. And I include myself in that. I bailed as soon as I needed to, unfortunately. I was told the Australian borders are going to shut. But I forgot how much stuff everyone accumulates in New York, because you've got such a small space that like, you just slowly accumulate stuff until you're sitting in the middle, just rocking back and forth crazy, until you have to leave your apartment and spend $1,000 on a sandwich. And my room at home, I do not judge these New York City people, okay? My room at home is all clutter, no space to breathe. But I guess what feels like space to breathe is like the rest of the house that I live in with my parents, because they are not clutterers. My mum is the opposite of whatever a clutter is. She's a minimalist, but not like a Kim Kardashian one. There's still color and warmth and whatever in the space. The walls aren't like smooth. I forgot what it's like. Every square inch of space in your New York City apartment is used. There is a container, there's something hanging off the wall, there is stuff that is strange just sitting somewhere until one day you need that. And I kind of appreciate that about New York, but I do feel like I'm suffocating, because not only is it busy like on the trains, there's people on the trains next to you that are just being stored next to you because it's all clutter. New York City is the city of clutter and consumerism, which we know that is not different. But I think when I was younger, when I was a younger woman, when I was more bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, when I lived in my old apartment, when I lived here, I mean, everything had a functional space, every nook and cranny, and you just keep adding cupboards and boxes and shelving and all of that stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know, call me old-fashioned. No, not even old-fashioned. I'm not old-fashioned. I'm getting old. That's the heart of this conversation is I am getting old and grumpy and unable to be changed and unable to adapt. And maybe that's just what happens. And wherever you are for long enough, all the people, all my friends who have stayed in New York City for long enough, they just adapted to live in this world. And then I adapted to get old in Sydney. I would love to live here again, but I would need considerable cash flow. That's my big realization. I mean, look, you can do it cheaper. You can do it on a budget, obviously. But I think I am just too difficult a woman. I think the one thing that I love about coming to a place like New York is realizing, like, okay, it does feel a little bit different to what it did many years ago when I lived here. But at the same time, it feels the same. Because I think big cities, whether it's New York or somewhere like London, they feel the same. I reckon if you spoke to someone who lived in New York City in the 50s, yes, they'll say, gentrification and everything's more expensive and there are so many more struggles. But at the heart of it, it's like, it still is a grungy place where people come for all different kinds of jobs and all different things. And I think that's awesome. But I also do want to say the takeaway for me and for you, if there is anything you've ever wanted to do in your life, I just think, like, if you've wanted to live in New York or you've wanted to do a certain job or you've wanted to do this or that, I think things don't change as much as we think they do. I think we think, oh my God, if you don't live in New York City now, right now, that it will never be around. Sweetie, if I move back to New York City at 85, I will still be going up a fucking fire escape or a 10-story walk up, unless I'm really rich. It will still feel the same. I'll move to New York City when I'm 80 and have roommates. You know what I mean? I'll have roommates, we'll leave passive-aggressive notes on the fridge, and we never see each other because we're hustling to try to be successful, and we're 80, and we live in a walk-up, and my ass is finally not so flat. Because maybe that's the solution. Maybe I need to live in New York City, trim some weight for my autopsy, and get a couple steps in up and down a 7-story walk-up, and then my juicy fat ass will impress the guy, and he's like, whoa, why did they stab her in the ass? If anything, they should take her tits because they're way flatter, because she's 80, but her ass is like steel buns. I'm not going to lie to you, it's about 14 degrees and I'm sitting out here in just a hoodie and a thin pair of pants with no socks. I think I have frostbite and I don't know what I've been saying, and none of this is admissible in court. And I've learned the word admissible and in court because I've been binge watching Suits like it's my job, as I've said for the last few weeks. Last it was Outlander, now it's Suits. I just need something to not have to think about while I just lay in bed and think about death. You know what I mean? God forbid a girl needs a distraction tactic and she picks Suits. That'll have to do for the episode because otherwise I will die out here. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. A pleasure as always. Over and out from New York City. And I hope that a siren goes off right now. That would be perfect timing. God forbid this city gives me anything I want. All right. Mwah. Now watch me climb through. If it doesn't look so bad, I'm going to keep it as the ending. I'm going to climb through this window back into the apartment. But if it looks bad, we're cutting right now.